Nestled in a serene residential area, a short distance from the bustle of New York City, is an antique two-story home. Its white-painted wooden exterior shows considerable fading, which is a result of the years of weather it has seen. A wheelchair-accessible ramp is located at the front door. I, Sarah Brown, lived in harmony with my mother-in-law, Dolly, in this house. Until one terrible day, that is. Avoid getting involved in matters that don't affect you. My life completely collapsed when my sister-in-law, Marlene, spoke these startling words. "Leave if you can't give me your entire salary." My voice was hoarse with astonishment. "You are just an outsider, and I am the daughter of this house," Marlene said with a victorious expression. "If you turn in your paycheck each month, I'll let you stay. Go if it doesn't sit well with you." At what she said, I lost my words. I had given my mother-in-law my undivided attention for 10 years, day and night. That my sister-in-law, who was content to joke around, would say such things to me was ridiculous. I was filled with despair, anger, and a profound sense of disillusionment. I can still clearly recall the day I moved into this house 20 years ago to marry Russell. At the time, I was a 28-year-old Italian student who had just moved to the United States. With our marriage, which Russell graciously approved of, my cohabitation with Dolly, his mother, started. Since his mother was dependent on him and his father had already passed away, Russell's decision to live with Dolly was motivated by his filial piety. Initially, I was nervous. It was intimidating to live abroad with a mother-in-law who was from a different culture and spoke a foreign language. Dolly, on the other hand, usually smiled to see me and seemed to sense my nervousness. "Sarah, I know it's difficult to adjust to life in America," she would advise. "Don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it at all." Dolly informed me about American culture and customs and assisted me with my English studies. Her generosity and kindness gradually warmed my heart. She carefully taught me how to cook and take care of the house. Dolly carefully walked me through each step as she demonstrated how to prepare an American-style breakfast and how to cook a turkey for Thanksgiving. "Sarah, I love your soup so much." She would ask, "Could you show me how to make it?" Dolly said something that made me very happy. Naturally, we developed a bond based on mutual respect and cultural learning. Luckily, Dolly was a very nice person, and our cohabitation was pleasant. Despite not being blood relatives, she took on the role of a true mother to me. But everything changed when Dolly unexpectedly passed away 10 years ago. One day, I came home from work to find her laying on the living room floor. I almost lost my cool, but I composed myself and called for help right away. A stroke was the hospital's diagnosis. Thank goodness she lived, although her right half of the body was paralyzed. My thoughts went blank as the doctor described the necessity of regular help and long-term rehabilitation. "Mrs. Brown, your mother-in-law will require extensive therapy," the doctor added. "She will require assistance with her daily activities." I nodded when I heard the doctor say that. I made a clear decision right then. I recognize. I'll see to her needs. Russell concurred, so I left my job to work as a freelancer from home full-time, taking care of Dolly. Taking care of her proved to be more difficult than I had anticipated. Every day was busy. I helped with bathing, assisted with meals, and went with her to therapy sessions. At times, I felt completely worn out. However, Dolly's kind words and smile made me feel better. Dolly was like a genuine mother to me because I lost my parents at a young age. I saw caregiving as an opportunity to give back rather than a burden because of this. Our family went through another ordeal 3 years ago. It was a wet, cold day. The phone rang loudly as I was making breakfast. As usual, the police were involved. "Mrs. Brown, I'm sorry to inform you your husband has been involved in a traffic accident." It seemed like the world had stopped the instant I heard those words. I hurried to the hospital, only to receive the worst news imaginable. Russell had passed away at the accident scene. It was all so quick that I could not come to terms with reality. I was so overcome with sadness and hopelessness that I sobbed nonstop for days. Dolly's shock at losing her only son also left her speechless. Her body was crippled, but her mind was still acute. But ever since the event, she has been confined to a wheelchair and has been staring out the window. I buried my own sorrow and focused on taking care of Dolly. I talked to her, urged her to eat, and did everything I could to give her some energy back. I was determined to stop her from becoming worse and maybe developing dementia. Dolly, this day is sunny. Would you like to get some fresh air outside? I would advise against it. I used to take her out into the garden on occasion. We would enjoy peaceful times together while sitting on the garden bench and gazing at the roses that Russell had loved. Every now and again we would cry together remembering Russell. Russell used to spend a lot of his childhood playing in this garden. Ascending the tree, he would exclaim, "Mom, look at me." Dolly's voice faltered, but her eyes gradually became brighter again. I talked about my husband's memories as well. When Russell and I set up a picnic table in this garden shortly after we were married and had wine under the stars, he said to me, "Sarah, I am so happy to have met you." Through sharing our sorrow and encouraging one another, we progressively started to mend through these talks. We made new connections. It was easy for me to see because our relationship remained unchanged. I would stay here and take care of Dolly the way I always had. But fresh unrest was poised to interrupt our quiet days. There was an unexpected guest one day. When I answered the doorbell, Marlene was standing there. She is my sister-in-law and the sister of my late spouse. "It's been a while, Sarah. Can I hang out for a while?" Marlene's voice had a certain intensity. After a brief period of hesitation, I decided there was no good reason to say no. After all, she was family. I thus sent her a visitation invitation, but I didn't realize how profoundly this choice would alter our lives. With a sardonic smile, my husband used to describe Marlene as someone who was precisely as she had always been, pampered and considerably younger. It's true that she behaved like a queen and was incredibly self-centered whenever she returned for holidays or other special events. Her self-centeredness was intolerable. She did not only not assist with caring, but she also did not participate in cooking or housework, choosing instead to eat and drink to her heart's content without doing any cleanup. Sometimes when she was inebriated, she would yell insults. It was pointless to hope for a thank you from her. Her normal behavior defied logic beyond reason. Acknowledging my preoccupation with childcare, she would abruptly abandon her child and head out for some fun. She would take the meals I had made home without asking when she finally came to pick up her child. I felt she was being too free, even though it was her parents' house. I finally found the confidence to confront Marlene one day. "Marlene, I believe it would be pleasant if we could all get along and coexist. Could you lend a hand a little?" Her reply, though, was not what was expected. "What? You are such a worthless freeloader. You are incapable of even bearing children. In order to be useful, you should therefore be doing all the chores. Mom is saddened since she wanted grandchildren. I bring my kids over because of this." Her remarks had left me completely stunned. I was shocked that she would say such hurtful things to me, since she knew how much I had wanted kids, but had been unable to conceive. That she was that kind, Dolly's daughter, seemed unreal. I chose to stop responding to her after realizing it was pointless to say anything. Since we didn't get together very often, I decided it would be best if I just put up with it while I wanted to live a quiet life. Marlene's visits became more and more frequent. One day, Dolly asked Marlene, "Marlene, why do you leave the children here so often and come back so late at night?" Marlene replied as if making an excuse, I started a part-time job because I need more money for the children. Now you're happy to see your grandchildren, aren't you, Mom? That's true. But Dolly seemed unconvinced. The children were still young, yet she was working at night. I also wondered why she would need to work nights when she wasn't struggling financially, but I kept silent. Then one day, as usual, Marlene suddenly visited. I thought she had come to drop off her children again, but this time she was alone. She came pulling a large travel suitcase, and just when I was wondering what was going on, she declared, "I've gotten a divorce, so I'm moving in here from today." Dolly and I were shocked and asked what she meant. Marlene, looking almost tearful, turned to Dolly and began, "Mom, the truth is, I've been suffering from domestic violence from my husband for a long time. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I decided to get a divorce." Dolly's face turned pale upon hearing these words. I was so surprised that I lost my words too. Marlene continued, "I wanted to bring the kids too, but my husband wouldn't allow it. He only agreed to the divorce on the condition that I leave the house alone." I was confused. I had met Marlene's husband a few times before, and he seemed calm and kind, not at all like someone who would commit violence. In fact, I had seen Marlene frequently yelling at her husband and children unreasonably. However, Dolly seemed to believe Marlene's words immediately. Hearing her daughter's suffering, she agreed to let her move in. "Sarah, I'm sorry, but I can't abandon Marlene," Dolly apologized to me. While she said she was sorry to me, I understood that if a mother hears her daughter has been divorced and ousted, she couldn't just ignore it. With mixed feelings, I replied, "I understand. Thank you, Mom." "Sarah, please be nice, okay?" Marlene, who had appeared to be crying earlier, now smirked with dry eyes. It seemed like it was all an act. And so our life living with Marlene began. However, she continued to do nothing at all, just like before. She didn't help with her mother's care, nor did she do any cooking, laundry, or cleaning. Astonishingly, she did nothing. Moreover, her attitude towards me became increasingly arrogant. But I maintained my composure in front of Dolly. I didn't want to cause any unnecessary worry for my mother-in-law. One day, Dolly spoke to me. "Sarah, there's a place I want to go. It's a bit difficult with the wheelchair, but could you come with me?" "Of course. Where would you like to go?" "Shall we stop by our favorite cafe? It's been a while." There was a cafe that had been our favorite since I married into the family. We used to go there often when Dolly was still healthy. I also have something important to discuss, so that sounds good. I felt a slight unease at Dolly's words. When we arrived at the cafe, Dolly, checking around to ensure privacy, began speaking in a low voice. "Sarah, I'm actually worried about something concerning Marlene." "What is it?" "She's been going out in the middle of the night and spending a lot of money. Something about her behavior seems off. Also, about the divorce. Something doesn't seem right. I want to contact Marlene's ex-husband, but it's difficult for me." I was surprised by my mother-in-law's words. Dolly wasn't completely convinced by Marlene's story. "I understand. I'll look into it." From that day, I quietly but steadily began to investigate the truth. Several weeks later, I uncovered the entire truth. I contacted Marlene's ex-husband and met with him directly. His story was entirely different from Marlene's claims. Actually, Marlene had multiple affairs. I forgave her each time, trying to make things work. Sadness was evident in his eyes. In the end, Marlene left the house on her own. She neglected the children too. I was stunned. All of Marlene's stories were lies. As evidence, her ex-husband showed me exchanges of messages between Marlene and another man, along with hotel receipts. After learning everything, I told Dolly the truth. She appeared deeply hurt, yet there was also a look of resolve on her face. "Sarah, thank you. There's something I must do. From that day, Dolly began closely communicating with a lawyer. She didn't share the details with me, but it seemed she was preparing something. At home, Marlene's attitude towards me became increasingly arrogant. "Hey, make something more substantial. What's with this bland all-veggie meal? Are you trying to annoy me? I'm making these meals low in salt, considering your mom's health. Marlene, you should cook what you like to eat." "What? Don't order me around. You're just a freeloader. Besides, my brother is dead, and you're practically a stranger now, right? Why are you still living in this house? Are you paying rent? If you have a salary, you should give it all to me." What? I was baffled by Marlene's words. "It's ridiculous to keep a stranger in the house for free. You should be paying rent and utilities." Rent? I've been living here since I got married. We even paid for the renovations when we moved in and all the utility bills. But the land and the house are ours. And now that my brother is gone, you can say whatever you want, right? Marlene's words hurt me deeply. I had devoted 10 years to caregiving for Dolly, day and night, and to be treated like this was unbearable. Who will take care of Dolly if I'm not here? Don't meddle in things that don't concern you. If you can't hand over your full salary to me, then leave. The moment these shocking words left my sister-in-law Marlene's mouth, my world turned upside down. What? And you have the nerve to say such awful things while I take care of everything around the house? Marlene, meanwhile, merely scoffed at me, seemingly making fun of my efforts. Receiving money from a guest who isn't even related to you seems normal, doesn't it? You act like you're helping me, which is absurd. It's obvious that you're after the inheritance. If that's how you're feeling, I get it. I'm going to go. It was unbelievable to me that Marlene, who had no desire to care for her own mother, was sincere. I promptly contacted a nursing facility, and it was arranged for Dolly to move into one as I moved out. Dolly's health appeared to deteriorate after that. I loved spending time with her, so I went see her every day. Despite our distance, I apologize so much. Sarah, it's unbelievable that she expelled you. She refused to listen to my requests for her to change her mind. Don't worry about it, Dolly. Give me a call if you need anything. However, the conclusion arrived abruptly. I got a call one day saying that Dolly was having a seizure because of her chronic illness. When I arrived at the facility in a hurry, Marlene was gone. "Dolly, please persevere," I cried out in desperation. Dolly took hold of my hand and said something in a weak voice. "Sarah, you really were a good daughter." "Don't talk like that, Dolly. There is still time for us to be together." My eyes were filled with tears. "It's all right. Everything is ready. I have faith in you." Dolly closed her eyes silently after saying those words. Dolly passed away in spite of the doctor's best attempts. I felt bad that I hadn't been able to properly bid her farewell or show her how much I appreciated her. My tears wouldn't stop. A few days following Dolly's burial, all of the family members met at the house that Marlene was the only one remaining in. It appeared that Dolly had asked for her entire family to be there when her will was read aloud. After surveying the room, the attorney Dolly had hired started to explain. At the wish of the departed, she left a voicemail that I was to read before I opened the will. Kindly pay attention. Everyone listened closely as Dolly's voice started to play. "We appreciate everyone coming together. I value the connections we have throughout my life. I will now discuss how my estate will be distributed. It's not a big sum, but I asked for you to be here to avoid any problems. First, I leave $100,000 to my daughter Marlene. She went through a divorce and has little children, despite the fact that she did not help in any way with her parents' care. I hope she uses this as alimony and for the needs of the kids. I thus simply give her the statutory amount." Marlene gave a startled gasp. "Which section of the statute? Not everything, is it?" Among the relatives, there were whispers. Marlene had a divorce. She has spent years hiding her face from family get-togethers. Alimony? The kids are with her, right? Sarah Russell's wife was the one who took care of Dolly by herself, right? When Marlene saw all of her family staring at her, she flushed and trembled. Her fists tightened. As the family processed the information about Dolly's last desires and Marlene's actual nature, the atmosphere became tense. Those of you hearing about Marlene's divorce for the first time might be surprised, Dolly's voice went on. Her adultery was the root cause. If she were ignoring me in favor of her family, that would be one thing. But she wasn't being faithful or taking care of her kids. Rather, she was spending more time with her partner. After her husband discovered her, they got divorced, and she lost custody of the kids. Knowing Marlene, I know she would fight for her rights, even though I sincerely don't want to leave her a dime. I will simply leave her half of the statutory portion so as not to cause any issues for the other heirs. I hope she pays off her debts from her marriage appropriately and keeps the rest for her kids' benefit. The family members gasped in shock, and Marlene's face turned red. Sarah, I appreciate you joining our family and all of your hard work over the years. I cherished every aspect of you. Even though Russell's early death must have been extremely difficult for you, you bravely supported me and took care of me at our house. Tears streamed down my cheeks. I leave our house and land to Sarah, along with the same $100,000. I would be happy if you could recall the times we spent there together, but you are free to sell or rent the house. Dolly, I just found out about the will's contents, I said coolly. Dolly was also aware of your divorce. She was told straight by your ex-husband. Marlene's complexion went white. Despite your ongoing indiscretions, your husband made several attempts to patch things up for the benefit of the kids. Although Dolly said that he should, your benevolent husband had no intention of requesting alimony. The family members looked at Marlene with contempt. At last, I remarked, "You should be aware that Dolly legally adopted me. It appears that you are unhappy about the inheritance I am getting. I am legally her child just as much as you are." Marlene fell to the ground, her face turning pale. My relatives erupted in applause for me. A few were in tears. "It's good to see you rewarded after all your years of caring for Dolly," someone commented. "You seemed more like her real daughter than just a daughter-in-law," a different individual commented. Someone else said, "Just give us a call if you ever need help." I made a deep bow. "Thank you." Dolly seems to have brought everyone together to make sure that the inheritance was not the subject of any miscommunications or unfounded rumors. Marlene cursed and fled the home after giving it to me. Despite having to provide her ex-husband alimony from her inheritance part, it appeared that her life after that was difficult. I'm now enjoying a relaxed lifestyle while going through the things in the old house. I was given the tape of Dolly reading her will by the attorney. "Really, thank you for everything. I have always appreciated your politeness and honesty." Tears well up in my eyes just thinking about what Dolly said. I question if I did a good enough job of thanking her. I didn't consider taking care of her to be caregiving. We were meant to be together all the time. I wonder if she understood my feelings. Maybe the will's contents were her way of responding. I worry that Dolly and my husband in heaven would worry about me if I cry any longer. "All right, today I'll go to that cafe for the first time in a while," I said out loud. A familiar smell surrounded me as soon as I arrived at the cafe, reminding me of the times I spent here with Dolly. Smiling, "Welcome," said to a young waitress. "Is it just one today?" "Yes," I answered, as my eyes started to flood up with tears. "Are you okay?" the worried-looking waitress inquired. "I apologize. I'm all right. My mother-in-law and I used to visit this place frequently. She is now deceased." "I see." She smiled gently and continued, "It must be a location full of memories for you and your mother-in-law." "Yes, but it's my first time here alone." "I understand, but I'm sure she's happy that you came to this special place," she informed me. Her remarks gave me a little more hope. I'm grateful. Yes, I'm sure you're correct. I grinned. I took a seat at my table and stared out the window at the warm spring sunshine. It felt nice. A brand new season was about to begin.